Morning people, welcome back to F Politics. This story about Chancellor Jeremy Hunt saying that £100,000 a year salary isn't huge is one of those stories that when you first hear it makes the Tories look really bad. Then when you think about it, it makes it look more understandable, and then when you really think about it, makes them look even worse. But let's hear what he had to say for himself today.
Well, I was talking to a constituent who was pointing out to me that, what sounds like a large salary, when you have house prices averaging around £670,000 in my area.
Okay, let's stop for a second right there. Putting aside the fact that he lives in an incredibly rich area, so of course the house prices in his area are going to be really, really high, why are house prices in general so high? Could it be because there simply aren't enough homes? Because the Tory government has simply refused to build them after getting elected on a promise to build 300,000 homes a year? And in fact, house building has actually gone down to the lowest levels since COVID hit. But no, you carry on.
If you've got a mortgage and you've got childcare costs, it doesn't go as far as you might think. And that's why I want to give help to families. That's why the childcare measures are very important.
Okay, this is where it starts to get slightly more understandable, because if you know me, you know that my view is we won't solve the gender pay gap between men and women until we completely eliminate the very concept of childcare from the minds of employers. I.e., I never want a situation where an employer might think, oh, I shouldn't hire that woman, I should hire the man instead because at least the man won't have to look after kids. Now, you either achieve that by either having the state completely cover the cost of childcare while the parents are at work, or you engineer it so that men take just as much paternity as women take maternity, so that both men and women are away from work for the same amount of time. Meanwhile, organizations like Pregnant Then Screwed, who represent women who have kids and then get screwed by the world of work, say that paternity leave isn't supported enough, and childcare support isn't keeping up with inflation because the cost of childcare is going through the roof. But the last bit of what the Chancellor says is where the real Tory comes out.
We weren't able to afford to fund childcare for people on the highest salaries, but I was simply saying that's something I'd love to be able to look at in the next Parliament, but we can't afford to do it now.
Now yes, obviously that sounds insanely Tory, but before we get to that, here's my slight defense of it. If we're serious about closing the gender pay gap between men and women, that means eliminating childcare as a factor in employment at every single salary level of the job market. But that doesn't excuse this, because your reason for saying that you want to help people who are on £100,000 a year is because housing is so expensive. Well, you made the housing crisis worse. Or because the cost of living is so expensive, well, you made that worse as well. Meanwhile, he hasn't given enough support to parents who are on low incomes. Meanwhile, there are 4.3 million children who are in poverty, with 3.6 million in absolute poverty. And the Chancellor, the person who the Tories have put in charge of our economy, is saying that his hope for the next election is that he can help people who are on £100,000 a year. Why? Because when they were surveyed, 63% of Conservative Party members said they were against the idea of spending money to redistribute wealth to help poor people in society. Like, remember when Rishi Sunak bragged about defunding deprived urban areas to help rich ones? Yeah, they keep telling us exactly who they are. We need to start believing them. I'm Femi. Make sure you follow F Politics so politics doesn't F you. Have a great week.